Test, test. Can people hear me? What's going on, everybody? Give me a second while I finish doing some setup things. Give a second for people to come in. Oh man, I ain't got the camera on right. I'm still here, y'all. Give me a second. Give me a second. Nope, that's not the right camera. There we go. Ugh. No chair streams. I do not stream enough or well enough to. I don't think I got it like that where I can just put the chair on the stream and call it a day. So you're just gonna run with some things. I'm starting to learn this. I didn't know I could do this right here. I didn't know that. I'm learning new things. I'm getting there, y'all. I was sitting on the floor because I'm in my kitchen right now, and this is like the dining room area. And in order to get a shot with as much as the green wall as possible, sitting on the floor kind of like helps get as much as possible so that I could do more green screen effects. For those who don't know, this wall was already green. It was just already green. We just chose to paint the walls green because we're cool like that. We're fucking filthy hipsters buying our first house, and we said, let's paint the wall green. And it was cool. And then suddenly it's really useful for YouTubing. So, all right. How do I get rid of this now? How do I? Oh, there we go. I click this. All right. So we're here tonight to just chop for a second because I haven't done just a chill stream in a minute. How your elbows looking? We're looking okay. All right. What's up, Foreign? There's some things from the video. I just saw a comment. Let me see if I can. Damn, I lost it. I saw there's a couple of comments and responses that I wanted to speak on and elaborate on that I felt were useful enough to create more discussion. So I wanted to get into some of those. I want to see how y'all feeling about this Black Lives Matter scandal, like the ongoing scandal. This is like the third major ridiculous scandal to come out in the last couple of months. I don't know if this is the worst one because they've all been pretty bad. And then just, chill for a second while there's no kids here. So, yeah. So, I want to start with a channel update. First off, shout out to all the new patrons. I guess people appreciate higher quality content. So I had a nice little Patreon boost from the Will Smith video. And I'm at a point now, like no shade to anybody else on YouTube. But I've been treating this very much like a job because I left a relatively decent paying job to do this full time, and this pays more. But it also meant an increase in overhead. This is actually, I work more now than I did for my normal job. And so because of that, since becoming serious, I've been dropping like a video every 2 weeks almost. Thank you, Adam Chambers. No, I have not. I will answer super chat. I will answer super chats, but not just yet. So hold on if you want a question, because I don't want to waste anybody's super chat question just yet. Let me get this at least announcement out. But yes, long story short, I've been putting out stuff regularly, not just because like I wanted to get the videos out, but because though that video number coincided with a dollar amount that was needed to pay bills in the Signifier household. And I was not in a position to not release videos within a certain time frame. Some folks release a lot of videos because they just got it in them. Shout out to Haryana Hook dropping 4 videos in a week. I ain't got it like that. I ain't got that much creativity. But yeah, for me, it was more like this is as much as I can do as like I have the energy for. But now with adding an editor, so one of the questions that came out of the Will Smith video is how I got it done so fast. And to be real, it was done in a normal amount of time. It was done in a 2-week period. I had recorded 90% of the video the night of the smacking incident. And then like literally, some of y'all may have been there for the live that I did immediately after. Like I was rendering the video so I could send it to the editor. And then I checked Twitter and it's like Will Smith smacked Chris Rock. I'm like, oh shit, I just finished talking about this dude. Let me investigate, etc. So most of the video was done, and then I had to really crunch my editor to get it out on time, which I don't want to do. Like I didn't like doing that, but like that video, as I said in the video, it transformed between talking to Foreign Man and the time I recorded. Like I talked before that, it was just going to be a light Bel Air is a really good show and here's why video. And like I had thought about talking about this boyhood trauma stuff in more depth, but I really didn't want to. And then after watching Belly for the first time in years and like seeing like all the other connections, I was like, all right, I gotta just, it's gonna be better to do it. And so once I was done with the script, I was like, ooh, this is really good. And so I knew the editor was in the pocket. Like I had talked to him and we was talking about doing a future project. He was also going to recut my Obama videos as a Nebula exclusive. But I was like, drop all that. We're going to just work on this. I want this to be a really big video. I want it to feel like the gravity of this topic. I want it to come through and how much more goes into the video's production. But that was all done in 2 weeks. And that's just not enough time to have a reasonable work schedule with another person. Like I can turn a video around in 2 weeks if I write it and record it in enough time. The editing usually takes me a week if I'm not, trying real hard to do a whole bunch of extra stuff, or if I don't have a bunch of interviews or whatever. But to get a real editor, I got to give that person time, and then like iterating and going back and forth takes time. So shout out to Foreign Man. Foreign Man about to drop some cursed images on us tomorrow, and he about to hit that editing bay crunch. Ain't nothing like that editing bay crunch for any of the non-creators and creators in the audience. Ain't nothing like sitting literally right here and just trying to get through it. I'm still feeling the effects from it. Anyway, so I'm rambling. I say all that to say, with the editor on board for as long as I'll have him, because he's very talented, and I don't think I'll be able to afford him for too long. And with the pressure of having to reach certain dollar amounts per month to cover the expenses of losing income in his household and trying to pay off student loans and save for a house and pay for healthcare because had to switch things up. We are now going to, I'm going to go to a once a month, roughly every 3 weeks schedule going forward, which is my goal. So yeah. And so there was some useful critiques that I wanted to engage with. I got another one right here. Oh, how do I go back to the one damn. All right. So first thing I want to do is engage with what I thought were useful critiques that, were in good faith and required some conversation. So Corn is very confused, said the only issue I had with the video is from the start of it because of the meta context mentioning Rock's neurodivergence. Too many think neurodivergence makes assholes, but he's paid to be one. And so there were a couple of elements in that beginning because I had to rewrite the beginning and I wanted to write it for dramatic effect. And so I wasn't as careful as maybe I could have been with speaking around neurodivergence and childhood trauma and PTSD, etc. And I don't know, is the term for Rock, Chris Rock has NVLD, and I don't know if that's neurodivergent or neuroatypical. And I'll let somebody let me know the difference, which one that should count in. And then also I had a couple of psychiatrists, psychology folks say, it's not quite the most responsible thing to directly attribute Will Smith's behavior to childhood trauma if he didn't say that explicitly in the moment, which I think is accurate enough. And it's important to know that I have a background in sociology. I have a background in social work. I do not have a background in therapy or psychology. So even more so, I'm just shooting from the hip and observing that it's under the umbrella of neurodivergence. Thank you, Petite Flower. Yeah, so I thought that was useful, and I try to be careful, especially as I'm growing, and I have a really diverse audience. And I am very intentional and really just enjoy, to be honest, the fact that a lot of different types of people are coming to the content and appreciating what I'm giving back. And so I want to be responsible with that. I have my own limitations and biases in terms of knowledge and experience. And every once in a while, some of that stuff is going to seep in. I do know about ACEs, adverse childhood experiences. I have read and written on the research of how, childhood trauma and PTSD leads to, lower behavioral health outcomes in the future for adults, definitely for Black men. So it's not unfounded, but it was less than responsible considering my platform to not give some caveat about that, right? Because there are some people in the comments that went a little dark. There were some comments that went a little dark where, we're talking about, hey, you should reach out to somebody for help, talk to somebody that maybe can find support. So I want to try to be responsible in that, right? The next thing somebody said something about in the where we at? Here we go. So here's another one that was really not really divisive. Most people liked it, but the people that didn't like it, some people. So the Carlton section resonated with a lot of people, which I'm proud of because I felt like that was everything I said with Will. If you know, like all the stuff leading up to Will, Yummy, TK, Devontae, Jordan, etc. A lot of that stuff is if you know. If you've worked with Black boys, I didn't say anything new to you, right? If you raise or around Black boys, most of that is relatively common knowledge. I just critiqued and analyzed it and broke it down. I felt like the stuff with Carlton hadn't gotten out a lot. I feel like we just haven't had a lot of conversations about the sellout, the Oreo discourse. I don't know what to call it. Thank you, Alexander Blatton. And Alexander's just showing love. I appreciate that. And so there's a couple of things I felt like I wanted to talk about with that one. Because in looking, so some of the critiques were, not every critique is in good faith, but some of them was like, okay, if I'd have tried to be more clear, then this takeaway wouldn't have been possible. So I can understand that. Because people like how you define sellout and, stuff like that. And yeah, like I left a little too much of that in my own head, thinking that people would just get it because they get where I'm coming from. But, not everybody's coming from the same standpoint and background. So first I want to address calling parents who move their kids into all white areas sellouts. That was not what I wanted people to take away. I don't think that you're automatically a sellout or some type of, anti-black race trait or whatever. If you live in an all-white area, you're the fly in the milk is the phrase I use a lot. Or if you move your kids to that area. I don't think that's necessarily the case. Thank you, Renee. Ooh, I'm gonna say your name wrong. Moncayo. And thank you, whoever gave the C note. That's what I'm talking about. Thank you, Rob. Appreciate that. Oh, Rob Scallion. Pay attention to that name. We're gonna talk about him in maybe a couple of months. So people brought up like sometimes it's like if you have a choice between being in like intense poverty and lack in certain areas. I'm from the South Chicago suburbs. I'm not from the Wild Hunnets. Like, I understand. I live in Atlanta. I don't live in Clayco, not Atlanta. I don't live in the SWATs. I don't live in certain parts of Decatur. And I have the means to live uniquely. I have the means even before YouTube to, as much as I could, create a black enclave around my children that still had white people. My kids go to a mixed school. But some people can't do that. Some people, it's like you get an apartment in the boondocks and you get out of, the hood because that's overall a better situation. I fully get that. And I don't begrudge anybody for doing that. That's survival tactics, right? What I was talking about is when you have the means and and when I said the phrase, you think the white man's ice is colder, right? And some people don't know any better, right? Because I was a teacher for 10 years, and I can tell you most like pre-secondary education, after you get out of elementary school, everything else is whatever, to be honest with you. Like there's some, and I know some people took that away, but other people, being empathetic, I've never had my blackness questioned very much, maybe a little bit when I was, very young. And I visited my cousins from, really from the south side of Chicago, or hung out on the block at my grandmother's house and started using big words. I had a couple of those moments, but like I haven't since very young had my blackness challenge, right? People that know my real name. You wasn't gonna challenge my blackness too tough. But I can imagine, I have a cousin who's from, way out away from black folks, Illinois. And that was a significant point of contention for him for most of his life. And so, that there's hypervigilance there, right? And because, as I said in the video, being labeled a sellout or Oreo is one of the more like hurtful labels to get as a black person. I don't know if there's too many worse things, like that. Yeah, it's Naperville. Close. I don't know if there's too many worse things that you can be called as a black person than a sellout or Oreo. So I can imagine that some people are hyper vigilant to that critique. So I want to be clear that if you are moving away from lack or moving for better opportunities, legitimately, nothing wrong with that. I would advise against it at all costs. I would advise if you have an option between sending your kids to a mediocre black school or the highest achieving white school in the state, the mediocre black school is where you should send your black child. And this is not on some black separatist, black nationalist stuff, which is the other thing I saw floating out there. It's not on some segregationist shit. It's because, and there's research on this, it is better for your children, period. It is better for your children to not be the only black person that they know. And quick, type F in the chat if you were the only black person. Is it F? Should I say F? Whatever. Type F in the chat if you've had that only black person experience and it sucks and you'd have traded it in for the hood any day. Not the hood. You get my point. Thank you. Ooh, I lost that. Thank you. I can't see your name, but I appreciate that. I put a book in the description. It's called The Conspiracy to Destroy Black Boys. And it goes to everybody, Mexican. If you are discernibly racialized as anything other than white, whether that be black, Asian, Mexican, Indian, and you are the only racialized person within a space, that is not a fun experience. Just like if you were, just like the one or two white dudes that, you know, might be in a black community or a Mexican community, that othering experience where you are the minority is not easy. It's tough. And getting back to the point of that statement was that a lot of black people, and this is generational now, this is something that has been happening for generations. You see the type of dysfunction that happens in black communities because of, you know, insert numerous reasons here. You can go back and watch the video about Robert Moses to get a reason why. So you see that dysfunction, you see the outcomes, you say, okay, the outcomes over here are better. So let me take my black ass over to this white ass area. And like, it makes sense on paper. Thank you, Binyam Mahari. I appreciate that. So you see that. So when that happens, it can be very traumatizing to the kids, and they don't necessarily get a better education. They get a maybe on average better education just based on the lack of certain barriers. If those barriers are not there, which they very well can be, because rates of disciplinary action against black children in general, and you know, test scores don't match. Like if you can go, like there's a site called Great Schools, but really any state will have some type of school report card. Idrisu Siedu is asking about African American immigrant version of Black experience. She stirs up some real stuff internally. I don't know whose video you're talking about, though. I know Julesy dropped a video around there, but I'll try to come back to that. But yeah, it's just not good for the kids. It's not. Like there's probably some statistics that show like a numbers, like maybe there's some test scores, maybe there's some socioeconomic outcomes that make you look better. And I'm sure there is, and partially to an extent, because if you got the money to move into elite all white areas, you probably have the money to provide your kid with certain resources that will guarantee their financial, economic, and educational outcomes be higher. But overall, just that experience is generally unhealthy and it's unwise. But a lot of Black folks, you know, like I said, think the white man's ice is colder. You know, it goes back to that Black excellence conversation from the Obama video. You know, you think the white man's ice is colder. You think that the only way to get access to certain power dynamics and frameworks and networks is to immerse yourself into white communities, into white frameworks. And no, it doesn't really work. You don't get access. If you look at the most powerful Black people in the country, where did they go to college? Put a HBCU in the chat if you know where some of the more powerful Black people in the country went to college at. They did not go to only Harvard and I don't know, Duke or whatever. HBCUs have their own issues with elitism a lot. But I'm in Georgia, Stacey Abrams running for governor. That's Spelman. You got even though she's doing an awful job representing, but goddamn, this is no disrespect. I mean, no specific disrespect to her in general, just the station. What is our vice president's name? Kamala. Thank you. Fuck. Kamala went to Howard. If you just go on LinkedIn in certain spaces, not everywhere, right? But you go on LinkedIn here in Atlanta, you trying to find somebody Black with some nice credentials and behind their name, you're gonna 7 times out of 10 see an HBCU next to their name. So Kamala went to Howard, Will. She went to Cal, I think, for law school. She went to Howard for undergrad. And that undergrad HBCU experience, it does something for you. It does something for you. It costs a lot, but it does something for you. So, yeah, I just want to make that clear that there's no automatic sellout, right? The whole point of that section was to really call in to this particular Black experience and to validate it as a Black experience. That was the goal. I don't like, and I feel like I've been pretty consistent with this over a lot of content, and I've had conflict with different people over different ways in which it manifests, because that's why we have the whole biracial discourse, and I'm not going to do tonight. But the whole point of that was to call in those people and to validate that as a Black experience, because Black is not, to me, a Black experience is just to experience the world when you're racialized as Black. And even if you do a bunch of bullshit that I don't fuck with, which is not automatic if you're in the suburbs, I want to be clear on that. But even if you're Candace Owens, you are still Black and having a Black experience, and there is insight and value to understanding that from that standpoint. Does that make sense? That was the whole point. And furthermore, plenty of Black folks in those suburban flying the milk experiences, they have they struggle in different ways with identity because they, for the same reasons I talked about with Carlton. A lot of them are lucky and have an immersion experience. It's happening a lot in social media where Black youth are able to collect together more than I have so much jealousy in my heart for some of y'all young folks and the fact that y'all are building community via social media, right? And somebody just pointed out and sell out, being from the hood and speaking the lingo and doing all the things does not guarantee you are not a sellout. Ben Carson, what's the brother, the Clarence Thomas, et cetera, et cetera. You woman, you thank you. Authentic Blackness doesn't shit. Authentic Black doesn't provide Black girls in films with social capital the same way it does Black boys in the burbs. That's probably very true. I have a theory that, do I feel like putting this in the ether? Fuck it, I'm gonna put it out there. I have a theory that the driving force behind the divestment movement is Black women who are coming from that flying the milk experience, because they recognize what you recognize here. And that, without positive experiences with Black males, it just makes diving that deep into, where they go with it more likely. I mean, that's very true. The commodification, Black masculinity can be commodified, it's very much commodified by white people. And Black femininity, not so much. It's more so ostracized and and demonized. And don't get me wrong, black masculinity is also demonized, but it's demonized in a way that can be easily repackaged and sold, if that makes sense. Go back to the Kanye video where I was talking about NWA, etc. So where was I at? Candace Owens and white leftists. So I don't know if I can do a part 3 on Kanye. I ain't doing another video on Kanye until he's better. I don't got the heart for it. It's just too much. Cass Lass says, I went to 2 racist private schools before I finally got a say and was able to attend public schools with other black kids after I was suicidal and legit sick and throwing up every day. Yeah. Sorry that was your experience, but yeah, that's like people in this. So bringing this back to the white, and I'm gonna stop saying white leftists in this case, because the leftists there is vestigial, right? People use white leftists when they're criticizing white people who are supposed to be in community on some level. But really the leftist part has nothing to do with the white part here. The white part is the problem, which is like that idea that Candace Owens has more value to add to an interpersonal discussion about race with me, another black person, than a white person. I don't care how many books you've read. I don't care. It doesn't matter. There is a gap there. There is a gap. That gap is the racialized black experience. And it's weird. And I don't know how much more harassment Kat Black has been getting after her, activities the last couple of weeks, but it's clear that, and I saw one of her threads, like some little white girl is like all up in her mentions, trying to explain to her why, no, she definitely should always want to allow white women in her circles, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And I want to try to be clear, because I don't know, like, to a certain extent, I know there's no explaining this to folks that are just not capable of getting it in this time, in this particular season. But I feel like some folks maybe can, so I want to be more intentional here. I'm not talking about validating or platforming a Candace Owens. I'm not saying that Candace Owens's takes on race and racism in America. Greg, that's a good one. We're gonna come to that next. I'm not saying Candace Owens's takes or like ideas about race in America are of value from a political or policy standpoint. Not at all. Right? I would never. I've made how many videos? I maybe have mentioned Candace Owens once before this video. I tend to not at all platform or drudge up certain folks that it's like they're just grifters and there's no reason to speak their name. For me personally, you can find that content elsewhere. But what I am saying is that I guarantee you I have more in common with Candace Owens's experience of blackness than any white person's experience of blackness. And that if I ask Candace Owens what her mom played while she cleaned the house, she'll probably say Anita Baker. And if you don't get that reference, that's kind of the point. That may be an old reference too. I don't know how many of y'all are my age, but there are reference points for the black experience that you cannot have if you do not have the black experience. Just like I cannot speak on certain experiences about being white or queer or trans or an immigrant or a lot of things. I appreciate when I'm invited to certain conversations. I appreciate when my ideas are validated or co-signed by people within that community that say, "Yup, that makes sense. Yup, you're right there." And I am fine when it's like, "Yeah, this conversation is not for you, Feek. Catch you next time." You know what I'm saying? But there's something about I'll just say progressive white people with progressive politics. It's funny. And I won't say it comes from a good place. It doesn't come from a good place, but it doesn't come from a overtly malicious place all the time. I can't say that. I've heard about Gerard's thing. That's definitely on my list to watch soon. Is there a Candace Owens redemption arc? Not in my story. There's only so far you can go. Like, we'll bring you back in quietly, but you better shut the fuck up when you get there. You know what I'm saying? Don't come in try to go for Frankie Beverly and Mays in heavy rotation. There you go. Where was I at? But there's no Candace Owens could never flip the script back to speak for Black people again. Not in my book. But we haven't always been the best at picking spokespersons, or better, more importantly, to be fair, our spokespeople are not always picked based on our actual inclinations. They're chosen by the powers that be. That's a good one. Hyperbala says Candace can't get that Don Lemon treatment. Right. That's a good example. Don Lemon, I don't know if his mother was white or if he just had like really old school, Don Lemon's older, he's Gen X, so that like some of that anti-Blackness. If you don't know who Don Lemon is, I guess let me make this dynamic real quick. Anybody that okay, as usual, I cannot. Nope, that's not what I want to do either. One second. Boom, okay. For those who don't know, that's Don Lemon. Did he have two Black parents? Thank you, Piscean Beauty. Yeah, so Don Lemon was hardcore respectability politics. Oh, Don Lemon had the classic respectability politics. And for those who don't know, respectability politics, which goes back in hand with that, white man's ice is colder ideology, basically says if Black people would just do blank, as in pull your pants up, cut your hair, stop speaking slang, speak proper English, whatever else, name your kids American names, that all the racism will go away and people will get further in life. And don't get me wrong, there's evidence to say that if you do less Black shit, you'll get one or two debuffs off your system, maybe, right? But fuck that. Fuck that. No. You shouldn't have to diminish your cultural identity to try to dodge anti-Blackness. And it is pretty clear that no amount of assimilation will keep you from getting the same shit that I got as a Black man with locks, with a very non-white name, so on and so forth. And Cosby said that same shit. That's like Gen X going back. That is like a prevailing belief that if I'm so bold to be critical of elders and ancestors, I think a prevailing belief, and this is before they understood critical theory, critical race theory, intersectionality, right? So I'm standing upon the shoulders of giants. But this is before they understood that no matter what they did, because racism is the word of the day, the system will always reshape itself to make sure the hierarchy is maintained. So Don Lemon came through CNN. He was a pioneer because he was the first openly gay black man that I could think of with that level of public, in the public eye. And so that was cool. But then like every other, in the middle of Obama's term too, every other black issue, he was like, well, why don't they just listen to what the police say? You know what I'm saying? Like a lot of shit. I'm pretty sure Renee, Harry Belafonte, and Sidney Poitier is full of respectability politics. I hate to break that to you, star person, whoever said that. Sidney Poitier is the original acceptable Negro. God bless his soul, love him to death. Did a lot for the community, a lot for the culture. He was still the first acceptable Negro. It is what it is. This is why I don't believe in like reducing people to their worst elements, because Poitier did so much greatness, but he was very purposefully an acceptable Negro in the media eye. So Don Lemon, to explain the person's comment, then I'm gonna get to this comment from Greg Hill. So after being really hated by the black community during most of Obama's era, like a lot of people, myself included to an extent, the election of Trump kind of woke Don Lemon up. And I was never on no respectability politics shit, but Trump helped fully solidify me moving further left. And so Don Lemon clearly started reading some more books and he stopped being on that bullshit. And now he's been reclaimed. He's still, we still keeping an eye on him. But overall, for his role, right, in entertainment news media, he's been reclaimed. I don't think that's possible for Candace Owens. Somebody just said something. Thank you for $10. I didn't get a chance to read it. Skip the screen. Something about doesn't want to hurt black women. So yeah, don't do that. What was I saying? But even still, just kind of wrapping that point up, there's no redemption arc for Candace Owens. But there is no such thing as a conversation about race, about the black experience. Let me phrase that. There's no such thing as a conversation about the black experience between a black person and a non-black person. Okay? Hold up. There's no such thing as that. Because what that is a lecture. What that is me telling you about the black experience and you maybe asking questions, listening, finding similarities, finding common ground, etc. It's not saying that conversation shouldn't happen or that non-black people can't contribute to conversations about black issues or, like I have white, some of my best friends are white. Oh, I'm sorry. But a real conversation about the black experience, a conversation means it's going back and forth. And so it's not that white people are excluded from conversations about race. It's just that it's a different conversation. And so going back to the origin of that little throwaway line that was from Cat Black talking about white leftists feeling like inclined to be in part of every conversation. No, that's not how it works. Hold on, Michael Butler. I'm gonna answer yours right now, Greg, but I want to do this one too. All right, so Michael Butler says basically, can you have whiteness without white supremacy? No, you cannot. Whiteness is white supremacy. I've tried to engage with this conversation a few times in videos and on Twitter, and it's hard to make people understand that whiteness isn't a thing and it only exists to support white supremacy. Now, white people who maybe we'll just say Caucasian, people of European descent, of Anglo descent, whatever you want to call it, that's a different thing than whiteness. Whiteness is a racial distinction that really is a class designation, especially in America. Outside of America, I can't speak with a whole lot of confidence. I don't have enough international rhetoric and thought and research to engage with that effectively. But if we're talking about colonial settler ideological frameworks, whiteness as we understand it is white supremacy. And you have to understand that white supremacy does not mean hating black people or calling black people the N-word. I think that's like the biggest L that race politics and critical race theory continues to take, is that we have not, even within the left, fully let it settle in that overt bigotry against black people or other people of color is not what we're talking about when we're talking about white supremacy. You know, it's not. But I have a critical race theory video. I don't know. That may be an end of the year thing because I want to do some fun shit, and that's gonna start a fight. But yeah, and this. So yeah, I hope that made sense. If it didn't make sense, just empathize with me trying to explain a very complex issue. I've suggested multiple times the book "Racism Without Racists" by Walter Bonilla Silva. He explains it much better than I can in a YouTube live. But he kind of breaks down the fact that racism is not really an act of individuals, but the individuals react in the system, and that the construction of whiteness is a core factor of what makes it work. All right. So, Michael Butler, would you say that Black experience is different according to the FBA and non-FBA designation? I'm gonna be real, y'all. I'm trying so hard not to just straight up clown this FBA 80 shit. St. Andrew has told me to go ahead and clown it. I want to hold out hope because of my former Hotep roots, that there is a logic to it that I just don't understand, and that there's good faith actors within it that can make it make sense, because there is something to say about the difference between the Black experience of immigrants, of Black immigrants, and the Black experience of indigenous, or I don't know what the appropriate term is, displaced, relocated Black folks in America. There's something to say there. Shout out to Julesy. I'll maybe put a link in. I may talk about this. I may leave this part of it up. Julesy has a great video that breaks a lot of that down. There's a conversation about the different immigrant community, Black immigrant communities that make it to America, and how all of them are not experiencing the same thing. You know, there's a reason why Nigerians are very successful in America, is because a lot of them were successful before they got here, and they get to translate that, economic and whatever capital, social capital. That's a conversation. This FBA 80 shit, every time I've encountered it, it's been some head-ass nonsense. I'm sorry. It's been some head-ass nonsense. And like, it's only sounded like it sounded like some Russian bots. It sounded like some Donald Trump shit. Like niggas never called Jamaicans immigrants before Donald Trump got into office, and you cannot tell me that is a coincidence. So, and they're in my comments. They're in there. I got rid of. I don't know if it's a xenophobia thing, Sade. I think it's. So I'm a tier list of my theories. S tier. This is a Russian psyop that just got legs in the community. Tier 2 is somebody said it's a modern take on Pan-Africanism. And like Pan-Africanism has been co-opted, right? And like there's always been like people aren't gonna like hearing this, they're not gonna like hearing it. You know, we in mixed company, so I'm gonna just be as coded as I can be. Pan-African movements, NOI movements, figures, leaders, etc. A lot of them have been high-level grifters, and there's a lot of grift that has weaved its way into those communities. And much like this brings us to Black Lives Matter. Much like with Black Lives Matter, it's hard to effectively police, critique, and manage Black radical movements under the white gaze, because there is like a need to maintain these Black radical movements that are doing important things and protect them from racist institutions and ne'er-do-wells that want to destroy the movement. Thank you. Renee said something very good. Xenophobia and nativism are American Euro fascist viruses. Very true. But some niggas caught the viruses. And so Skytanic, that's a good transition. I'm gonna do the research to really look into it. But like Black political movements always get co-opted. That's what capitalism and white supremacy does. And it's like a little progress can be made, and then there's like a wall. And then somebody takes the wrong check or sells some folks out. Excuse me. Somebody gets killed. Somebody gets arrested. Somebody gets discredited. And you know, it's hard for a lot of Black folks, especially when you're attaching your identity to being this pro-Black, you know, yeah, Amir, yeah, see, Amir, you're right, which is why I'm leaving it there. As those entities get co-opted, it's not just co-opting a movement, it's co-opting a sense of identity, which is why the FBA, ADOS people be in my comments fighting. I got more haters that look just like me than any other group. I'm not gonna wood at that. I'll take that. I haven't seen too many, I haven't caught the attention of the online right yet. And I plan to keep it that way, because I don't need them problems. Co-opt or destroy. Somebody said move, yes. So it's complicated. It's complicated. And what it comes down to me is the desire to reclaim a sense of power. And that's often why the fascist undertones that creep into some of these movements become popular, because it gives people who feel disempowered a sense that they can reclaim power by being anti-LGBTQ or being highly patriarchal or nativist and xenophobic. But it's different because of that, going back to that Candace Owens thing, you know, it comes from a very different perspective and like origin point, you know. And it's a lot of dope comments. I wish I could catch all of them. Comrade Kachal said it's modern neoliberalism. That's definitely true. Definitely true. As soon as we were able to put the Black power, follow me. Going from the 90s, the Pan-African flag started as a political movement and ended as a fashion aesthetic. That says it all. The Pan-African flag, I'm okay showing this one because y'all know this one. Hold up. 1 second. So, excuse me. Where'd it go? There we go. So that's the Pan-African flag. I don't know when it exactly started. It feels like a product of the 80s, because I don't think the Pan-African flag really got popular during the original civil rights movement or the post-civil rights movement. Elijah, chill on that. We'll get to that eventually. And so the flag started out as this pro-black, anti-capitalist, all these things, socialist movement, and turned into a marketing aesthetic. It did. And so if you're from the 90s, in the 80s, you remember when these colors became synonymous with marketing to Black people. And somebody just caught it. The same thing happened with the Black Lives Matter flag. The same thing. And I think everybody should have known. We should have known that a problem was brewing when the marketing product, the branding collateral of Black Lives Matter became the thing that people knew it most for. Quote more, Nancy Pelosi and Kente Cloth. Sir. And I didn't want to admit it because I thought Black Lives Matter was very smart in decentralizing their power and administrative body, because it meant that you couldn't just co-opt one person and kill the whole movement. But what that also did was allow whomever was just create so much chaos, and within that chaos, starting from the top down, people clearly ran the grift. And they were telling us about the whole time. We didn't want to listen because they were saying it at the same time Fox News was saying it. And that just makes it really complicated to be critical of Black movements. And so much more. That's a video I'm going to do too. That one might be like the end of the summer. I'm not sure. And it's not to say that Black Lives Matter, along with NOI and Pan-African organizations and whomever else, have not done a good amount to help Black people. Everybody except Umar. I don't know if Umar's ever done anything. But being critical of how a lot of those movements end. What's it called? Storyteller also has a good video on co-opting Black movements, where he tells a story about what happened with the March on Washington. So it's just a lot of, it is what it is. So my thoughts on the misappropriation of funds is the writing on the wall for Black Lives Matter became pretty clear in 2020. It was pretty much on the wall for years, and it became undeniable in the middle of last year. Oh shit, sorry. Umar isn't the ultimate grifter because he's not making enough money. I'll take Umar over Tariq Nasheed, Sean King. This coffee just went down the wrong pipe. I'll get some water real quick. Ugh. All right, all right. Feeling better, feeling better. All right, so that was the only things I plan on speaking on. Let's we can chop for a little bit. We can chop for a little bit. Where we at? So I got the fancy fridge. Nah. So all right, adulting quick tip. When you buy a stainless steel refrigerator that you think is stainless steel, take a magnet with you to the store. It's a lot of motherfuckers, myself included, that have refrigerators that look like stainless steel, and you can't put a magnet on that motherfucker because it's not. I don't know what this refrigerator's front is made of. It's not stainless steel, and I'm not the only person that got. So free adulting game for you. Thank you, Taurus Sense. Auto white balance turns green to yellow. You know, I don't know, like, yeah, because the wall is definitely way more green than it appears for y'all. And I guess so. I'm definitely not, you know, up in the production value. Y'all know that. I'm gonna get to it eventually. Oh, let me shout out my editor real quick. Shout out to Needless. I don't know if he's in here. That man definitely elevated this video. It's funny because people were talking about not doing. I was a person that was like, I don't know if I ever let somebody edit my videos, and I've had numerous editors reach out and say they wanted to edit, and I was like, nah. And then like, so free game on maybe getting like expanding your editing portfolio. My man took a clip of one of my old videos and re-edited it in his own style. And I was like, all right, let's set up a meeting. Let's set up a meeting, bro. Let's set up a meeting. This is kind of dope. And I don't know how the fuck you did any of this stuff. So, and the rest is history. Aaron Hash asks, have I watched more of season 3? So I've only watched the first 2 episodes. I guess the second episode would have came out tonight? I mean, the third one? I'm not sure. But yeah, I haven't watched just but those first 2. I don't have a lot to say about the second episode except that it was dope Atlanta stuff. That's not what I wanted to click on. But yes, I agree with this, Mr. Resner. I do think Fred Hampton's I think Fred Hampton was probably got the best like pragmatic solution to like actual progress. You know, if that doesn't require like a lot of things that don't seem possible right now happening. But you know, it is. So where we at? How do I keep on clicking the wrong thing? There we go. So Robert Reed is making a good point here that I think I want people to get, because this seems to really be a struggle with people. And like I talked about this earlier, this is not about black separatism or segregation. And I really don't understand why that is in certain spaces such a cosmic fear. Because first off, the country's already segregated. It already is. It's just that one population holds almost all the resources. So I don't understand like why people talk about ethno states. You know, it's an ethno state, Forsyth County, Georgia. That's an ethno state, right? South Side of Chicago, that's an ethno state. It's frustrating. Like that, the way we mythologize some of these things to try to create these boogeymans of Black power movements that are gonna turn into white genocide. And that's just not a thing. It's not a thing. And it's only a thing because it's a talking point from the right, that certain white leftists are so much more concerned with refuting right talking points that they're not actually paying attention to what they're saying or to what their comrades are saying to them. The right thinks that Black people collectively working and building alliances with each other, as Robert Reed says here, to consolidate political power and fix issues in ways only we can because of a lot of other reasons, that somehow equals white genocide. And if you don't know any better and you look at Black people collecting together to do Black people shit, that might seem like a decent argument to you. But it's not. It's not. Nobody wants an ethno state. What Black folks want is to have the means to handle all the shit we deal with in this country and to not have to beg, borrow, and plead and go through indignity to get it. Going back to Bel-Air, there's a dope little moment that I thought there's something I think about a lot as a parent. Something maybe some of y'all are going through. Hillary was being offered a opportunity to work for some company and get a lot of money. And in her little meeting with them, they just kept throwing microaggressions at her. Your food is too spicy. Your look is a little too ethnic or whatever. I don't remember all the words. And so she told them no, and then she called them out on online. And her mother got mad because she had called in a favor to get that done. And I kind of don't remember where I was going with this. I'm sorry, y'all. Where was I going with this? I don't remember where I was going with that. But the point I was trying to get to is, the point I was trying to get to is that the conversation at the end was the mother realizing that she had created enough resources and support systems for her daughter to have self-determination. Now, some other, they're 1%ers and rich and shit. So there's a lot of other problems there. But the point they're trying to get across was that we are trying to create a world where I don't have to worry about how my hair looks when I apply for a job or I go on for a job interview. You see what I'm saying? And that is what Black people are talking about when they're talking about self-determination, when they're talking about building up Black communities, when they're talking about creating strategic alliances and building up Black political power. Robert, I'm not talking about you in particular. That comment related to something else, but yeah, that's also true. And yeah, I just it's annoying. It's annoying that is an ongoing conversation in the online left, but I don't know if it is. It might just be a particular population. I feel like it's very much a particular population, but it is what it is. I always love doing this. Do you have any advice for new video essayists trying to explain hella complex culture, misunderstood topics in a way that's coherent and interesting to others without coding or self-censoring? That's from Ann Rill. So I don't think certain conversations are for YouTube, Ann Rill. So let's start there. This whole chat is full of conversations about ADOS and FBA and NOI and HOTEPs. And somebody asked me once to do something about Orishas and African spirituality disciplines and things like that. And those are all things I will probably never truly get into in a YouTube video, because a YouTube video is YouTube is an entertainment medium first and foremost. I don't care how much you learn. It is entertainment. You can't control where it comes from once it's put out on here. You can't control the algorithms that are learning about these things, but not learning about them for the right reasons. So if you have to work really, really hard to be careful about some culturally or sensitive stuff, I wouldn't put it out there personally. That's the first thing. Or I would put it out there while you're still small. But as you get bigger, like it gets to be a thing. So there's certain topics that I'll never really do about Black issues. I'm about to do some white people. I ain't done the white people shit all year. So we coming through with some white people shit in a little bit. But certain Black people shit, I just don't feel comfortable making videos about because it's so sensitive. There's so much explaining to do. I sometimes don't feel comfortable explaining so much. And Coastly, that's dope, but like I also don't have the time to do that. Like to do extra Patreon content. People that are on my patrons know they're just there for the love and support. I don't really have time to do extra Patreon content right now. It's just not possible. But yeah, so that said, I don't know. It's hard to say. Like, I thought Slime just released a video today that I think was really, really dope. That I think is a good example of how you like do a good video essay about a complex and deep topic that's still engaging and gets to a lot of things. Thought Slime really elevated with his last video. So like if you want like a example of like a really good, in my opinion, video essay that matches good technical stuff, good editing, good research, good pacing, good humor. The video Thought Slime released today, I think, is a really excellent version. So yeah, thank you, Black Mega Man, for the $2. I did not watch WrestleMania. I have not watched any wrestling since the pandemic started. And I just watched Raw for the first time in years Monday. Something about the pandemic just made wrestling just unentertaining. And so I just stopped watching. It just wasn't right. Yeah. It's Mark asks, as a white male involved in the movement since Trayvon, the word allies seemed charged. What would you want to see from a white ally? I made a whole video about that, Mark. Made a whole video. You can check that bad boy out. But I don't know. I don't know what I am in a space where I am figuring out what allyship really should look like. Both for myself and for like white people. Because like I am now in a position where I feel where I am embracing allyship with like queer communities. I have a lot of trans viewers. And that term ally is so easily, that space of being an ally is so easily corrupted that I don't like engaging with it too tough. So and within that same vein, I guess my thing would be don't fuck anything up. This is step one. Don't fuck nothing extra up. But like right now, I think the main thing allies can do for people is amplification and money. Like amplify the strong voices in the community, the voices that need to be heard, and then pay them to do that more is the best thing you could do. Because the problem is, and this goes back to the whole, class reductionist leftist activity that's still going, is that there's too many allies that want to fix the problem by making it so that people can't talk about it anymore. You know what I'm saying? That's what Hank Green in my Break Bread video had, I think, the best quick takeaway when talking about like the issue with racism in the country, which is that like for a lot of white people that are, you know, anti-racist, what they want more than anything is for the problem to go away so they can stop thinking about it. And when that stop thinking about it attitude is your guiding principle, then you take shortcuts. You take shortcuts and you do fuck shit, and it's hard to be an ally when you're trying to take a shortcut to somebody else's liberation. Because it's hard to enjoy life when you know that, you know, fuck shit is happening around you. So I get it on a practical level, but it's just not, no, it doesn't work. So that's the best I got. GK says thoughts on Paul Wall. I never had issues with Paul Wall. He had a couple of tracks I love. Everybody likes fuck is the name of that song? Dripping on fofos, wrapped in fofos. I don't remember the rest. Other than that, I don't remember too many Paul Wall songs. I remember his verse with Kanye, but he's fine. Trevor asked thoughts on DOD Sec and Lloyd Austin. I'm not familiar with any of those words, sir. I hope that doesn't out me as an idiot, but I just don't know. Sorry about that. Is it Paul Wall's birthday? Fucking Finn. So Finn from Star Wars, I could get a whole video out this shit if I wanted to, but I've already talked about commodification of, I may touch on it. Finn from Star Wars is why we cannot seek it. We cannot empower corporations to handle representation of us or any, you know, whatever in the media. Because they definitely made us think he was going to be a fucking Jedi in the first preview. And then, like, I actually was one of the people that liked, what's the one that people hate? Is it The Last Jedi? I actually liked The Last Jedi a lot. And I was interested to see where they would go with it. But where they went with it was to this weird place with nothing, like, just, And so, yeah, so Finn is a perfect example of using, you know, blackness as a marketing scam. And yeah, it's trash. Oh, have I seen Abbott Elementary? Of course I have. I haven't watched all the episodes. But as a former teacher in a high needs black school, all that shit is real. Every single last thing I've seen in that show is real as fuck. And I love them for it. Let me tell y'all a story about how my principal stole my homeboy's Xbox. Shout out to Dave Hellam. Shout out to Dave Hellam, who's actually a comedian on the West Coast now. I will never forget this story. I don't know if he's used it in his comedy yet, but he should. So my boy Dave was going through some shit. He was going through some shit. I'll just leave it at that. And because of that, he wasn't doing his best job as a teacher. I'll openly admit that. He was a bad teacher at the time. All right. So what he would do is he would regularly bring in his Xbox and give the kids a free day so he could just have a moment. It was not a good thing. Not a good thing that he was doing. All right. But he would usually only do that on Fridays or if there was a field trip. So and then this principal is a fucking lunatic. Like worse than the principal in Abbey Elementary. This principal that I had at this high school, he was there for less than a year. They fired him in the middle of the year because they were like, this nigga's out his fucking mind and he needs to go. So this principal's a fucking lunatic, but he did say, stop bringing that Xbox to the school. All right. Don't do that no more. Cool. My homeboy did it anyway. It was a field trip. And he was like, look, I'm going to bring this Xbox to the school because I'm going to have 4 kids in my class all day. They're going to play Xbox. I'm going to take some naps. We're going to call it a day. At the end of the day, the principal sends an assistant principal to his room and says, hey, Principal such and such wants to talk to you. He's like, oh, go hit his asshole, go again. So he's like, all right, cool. So he closes his door, which locks, and walks to the principal's office. And he sits there and he waits. He waits for about 15 minutes. And then he's like, all right, this motherfucker clearly don't respect my time. And that was the type of shit that principal would do. Like, he would literally tell you to come to his office and then just not be there and just expect you to wait and then not say nothing. And so then he goes back to his room. And he's like, oh shit, somebody stole my Xbox. And he thinks it's one of the kids. So he's just wilding. These little motherfuckers stole my fucking Xbox after all that, right? So he's like, you know, he's hot. He's hot, as Foreman would say. Oh, hold up. Let me finish the story. We still here. 1 second. All right, so he goes to the security, our security, like we have like a security section where they have cameras in the school. And he says, yo, show me the hallway that I teach you on so I can see who stole my Xbox. He shows him the camera footage, and all you see is this principal who's like 5'5", this little dude with like a big hotep beard. And he's walking down the hallway, just chill, whatever. He gets to his room and uses his master key to open up the door. And 5 seconds later, you see him walking out with the Xbox under his fucking coat jacket. And then he just takes it to his office and doesn't say shit. So my boy is now like super heated. And he goes back to the principal's office and is just straight up. Now he's like, yo, I know you got my, like now it's devolved into a dorm room argument. He's yelling. Thankfully, school is over and there's no kids there or parents, but he is yelling at this dude like they on the street. And he's yelling at him to give him his shit. The dude tries to lie and say he don't have it. He don't know what happened to it. And then finally he tells him that he has security footage and he gives him back his shit. Why he didn't just write the motherfucker up, I do not know. But that's the type of shit that happens in these highly underserved schools where they cannot attract. They sometimes, the principal, like her being in a sorority, all that shit is true. So Andre V is asking, what are thoughts on mass shooting that happened in Sacramento? I don't know any details on that. I did not look it up. I did my master's thesis on mass shootings, and I was like, yeah, I don't want to spend so much time on that. So I really have not looked up into the details. Thank you for the $20 though. Video on the rise of black sitcoms in the 90s with new networks. That's interesting. So we're talking about like UPN, and it had like what the standouts are like Family Matters. But it was like Moesha, sister. Yeah, there's a there. I put that on the back burner. And somebody thank you, Patrick. Somebody's question I skipped, but I guess I missed it. Nicholas Dickman asks, how do you feel about explaining crime through the lens of poverty? Seems controversial to talk about. So it just depends on how you explain the concept. So crime is predicted by the social conditions of any group of people. If you can explain crime as a product of poverty in Atlanta and West Virginia and Eastern Europe and South America and Southeast Asia, etc. Like crime is a product of people's social conditions. So there's nothing controversial about that. What it is to be careful about ascribing certain features of crime and poverty to an ethnic status. That is where you get controversial. Yeah. What else we got, y'all? Let's see. Let me go through, see. Thank you. No. Do you think the black bourgeoisie and rich black excellence will ever stop being associated with whiteness or fitting in, or will true blackness always be seen through the lenses of impoverished struggle? So that question doesn't work, but I think I know what you're trying to get at. So people are going to continue to misunderstand what being black means and what it looks like and what a black experience is and who's really black and all of that. Like that isn't going away anytime soon. I don't know how that goes away, but the framework around how we understand blackness does have room for growth and it's continuing to grow. That's one of the things, for all my criticisms about Barack Obama, like he changed the framework of what black looked like. Now it wasn't all for the good, but it does have room for change. I think the big problem is that we continue to define blackness through a white racial framework. We continue to, even internally, define blackness as something that white is not. And as we continue to do that, we're going to have problems. Like blackness has a wide variety of permutations. The only commonality is being racialized as black under white supremacy. Everything else has a lot of different frameworks. And I think one of my goals with my content is to illustrate that as much as possible. Somebody just said, there are always rich black people. That is not new. There are plenty of rich black people right during slavery, right after slavery. People think Atlanta is rich because we got athletes and rappers. No, Atlanta has old black money and still very black. What else we got? Tips for white people trying to learn about racial issues. I think in the ally video I dropped a race primer study guide. That's probably your best start. Beyond that, it's start somewhere and go in with deference and carefulness, because there's a lot of ways to fuck up, and there's no perfect way to do it. But a race reading list is probably the best thing to do from early on. Robert asks, do I see the reports that Jada thought Will overreacted, and now people saying she threw Will under the bus? I told y'all the night of that Jada did not appreciate that happening. I said that the night up because I've paid attention to Jada Pinkett and Will Smith's stuff these last couple of years because I do enjoy some of the Red Table Talks because it's interesting like discussions about self-development. So I knew that was coming. I don't think she threw him under the bus. Like, that was his fault. He knew better. He knew. They've had explicit discussions about what she wants from him as a partner. And it does not include smacking niggas on the stage. He knew that. I know exactly. And they've been together for 20, 30 some odd years. We a little bit over 10. I know exactly when I fucked up. So it's no surprise to me. He knew he fucked up as soon as he started walking back, as soon as he sat down. So she ain't throw him under the bus. Like, we can be critical of Jada for a lot of other things, but that ain't one of them. That's just, bad takes on Twitter. So do you think legalizing weed will help prevent arrests? I mean, it depends on. It could, but it depends on how they do it. And it depends on what new thing they figure out to arrest niggas for. So like, it could, but it's not going to automatically do that. There would have to be like all the weed legalization shit has been a perfect example of convergence, interest convergence in the critical race theory, because if done properly and fairly, legalizing weed should have had immense effective results for Black people and petty drug dealers, but it's basically only lined the pockets of rich people who can better engage with the market and take control of that business. Arama, coming back to anime, I do have an anime video. I wanted to talk about fascism and Attack on Titan, and Gabby and internalized, I don't know what to call it with her. It's internalized racism, I guess, with Gabby. I watched both, Michael. It's internalized racism with Gabby, and I just think she has a great, like, Gabby. I put a meme out before that Gabby is Candace Owens. That's gonna be the fucking thumbnail whenever I get to that video. But beyond that, I've watched so little anime since like 2013, except for Attack on Titan. I can't think of the last anime I've really watched. I watched a chunk of My Hero Academia, and that's in a little bit of is it Demon Slayer that everybody loves? Favorite Zelda is Ocarina of Time, which is the last one I've beaten. So that may not be saying much. Gabby doesn't need to go. Gabby is a great. That's why I wanted to talk. That's why I wanted to talk about her. Gabby is a great, like, way to explain how internalized racism works. Because, like, I don't know, like, where is the anime? Is the anime over? Is the anime caught up to the manga? Is it fully ended? I feel like it hasn't, or I'll be hearing more about how fucked up the ending is. Bellamy says my soul hurts every time you say anime. My bad, Bellamy. I'm gonna fuck it up if I try to say it the right way. So just bear with me for a second. AOT, so they had the last episode. No, it's not over yet. I don't think it caught up to the anime. Anime. Oh, that does sound dope. Oh shit. Yeah, so Attack on Titan is not over. The ending's gonna fuck a lot of people up. I don't want to spoil it. I'm just gonna say it fucks a lot of people up. But before the ending, Gabby gets the redemption arc that Candace Owens cannot get. Damn, I might have to make this video earlier than I think. Because now the ideas are starting to flood. So we'll see when I get to this one. But when you hear Gabby talk about being an Eldian, it is the exact type of rhetoric that it's the exact type of rhetoric that Black people adopt when brought up in anti-Black spaces when they are made to feel othered, like Gabby was made to be made to feel. I fucked that up, but you get my point. Like, Gabby has only seen and heard horrible things about her people. And she's only been treated poorly because, from what she's told, she is a part of that racial category. And so, yeah, thank you, Renee. And Attack on Titan has a ton of Nazi stuff in there, which is, we'll return to it eventually. So Gabby, like, it's just a perfect case study. When you hear her talk about we're the good ones, she says that at least in the she says that at least in the manga. I don't know if she says it there, but she has this belief that if she just does enough to appeal to this racist power structure, that she'll be accepted to the point where she's willing to kill and give her own life for it. That is how anti-Blackness can affect you if you are surrounded by, surrounded by people that hate you. So yeah, it's perfect for Candace Owens, except no redemption arc. Fuck Candace Owens. Any advice for a white guy with long-term friends that have wasted his tendency to trying to change for years, feel their lost cause just so hard to let some of them I grew up with? Let them go. So let me rephrase. Let me be more delicate with that. You cannot change their minds, right? If you've done all you can, you've done enough. If you are truly uncomfortable about the way they engage with race, then it behooves you to remove yourself from that situation. Do not make it a grand gesture, because they still gonna be racist. Like, do it for you, don't do it for me. Does that make sense? So that's what I'm trying to get across. Like, don't give yourself any extra points for removing yourself from that circle. But do it because it's the best thing to do, in general. Somebody said just ghost them. Yeah, kinda. Ooh, where we at? Got to put that one on the screen. Gabby is literally a physical embodiment of respectability politics for Eldians. We've come full circle back to the beginning of the talk. Indeed. Hold on. What Minecraft block would I be? Obsidian? Amethyst. I'm gonna just go with those. So whites talking to whites about racism, I think, is a really important thing. Please do that more in as effective way as you possibly can. I'm not saying don't try, because just like I talk about, patriarchy and misogynoir, because I know that men are going to hear me differently than they hear, Julesy or Khadijah Mbo or for Harriet, right? So you have to have that conversation internally within community. You want to arm yourself with the best information, and you want to operate. Just don't make that a sport, if you get what I'm saying. Don't make it like there's at a certain point after you've tried to engage, you either don't have the information they need or they're beyond helping. Then don't make it a sport. Let it go. I'm not against interracial relationships, so that's not what I meant to click. Where are we at? W and J situation reminds me when Will was talking about how he planned her birthday. Yep. That's exactly what I was speaking on, Saimu. Will planned her birthday. For the story goes, for those who don't know, Jada was turning 40 10 or so years ago, and Will knows that Jada prefers intimate, small experiences. He knows that. Instead of an intimate, small experience, Will planned this huge, elaborate party, had ancestry DNA done for the whole family, created a mini movie, just all kinds of big, ridiculous stuff. And in the moment, she said, "This is the biggest like exhibit of your ego that I've ever seen," and just shitted on him. And he admitted that he was wrong. And like that's what I'm saying, going into how why I knew he didn't slap Chris Rock on her behalf. That was about him. This is not to say we don't protect black women. Just what that really wasn't about. And as I said in the video, you can watch on the B-Side channel. That's not how you should be protecting anybody if you can help it. And he definitely could have helped it. All right, running out of steam. So let's get these last joints in. Can y'all tell I'm starting to run out of steam? I'm starting to move like this, do my little dance, stretch my back out. I keep forgetting I need to invest in a good chair. Somebody remind me on Twitter to order a chair. Ugh. Woo. Am I ever gonna dye my hair? I dye it black. I got some build up in the lower parts that I can't really get rid of, and probably got some build up here now after COVID. So I'm gonna dye it black, but I'm never dyeing it any other color. I don't. Maybe if I get like a stupid amount of money, and I just don't have to worry about blending in society ever again as a black man, maybe I'll dye black and get like a security detail or something. I don't know. I am halfway through Peacemaker. I don't think it's as good as people are hyping it up as. People were talking about Peacemaker like it was so spectacular. Narratively, it's all over the fucking place. It's fun, but like the narrative is, maybe I'm only like halfway there. Somebody said, check out Body Medics in Buckhead. Oh, I'm scared to even figure out what that is, because Buckhead, some sound like Body Medics. Atlanta is the home of the shoe model club. So I don't know if I need to thank you, Josh. I will buy a good chair. Karora's talking about mascots. Oh man, I could talk about mascots. I'm gonna let that one go. This is interesting. How do you think MLK and Malcolm X's legacy stack up to each other? So if I had to do a tier list, that's tough. No, it's MLK. It's MLK. Because here's the thing. The only reason why I wouldn't put MLK above Malcolm X in terms of his legacy is because of the way the defanging of MLK's legacy has affected my perception of him. Like MLK, because of Second Thought has a great video on the co-opting of MLK. And like MLK was a much more radical, much more explicitly anti-capitalist figure, and Ronald Reagan defanged him and made him palatable to become MLK to America. And so like that's my foundational thoughts of him. But in reality, he was much closer to Malcolm than people would think. So I put MLK above Malcolm. But I had to rank him on the tier list. Is that the metric I'm judging by? I don't know, man. Somebody said, should we be uniting these two messages? I see a lot of value in both. Yeah, we should value them all. I'm just speaking in terms of just like the pure entertainment value of like a Black History tier list, which I did make once upon a time. But all of them have stuff to add. Even the ones that, their history, like even Marcus Garvey, going back to like the ugly stuff that he got involved with, like the whole point of that Pan-African movement was valuable. but it just went left. Well, it didn't go left again. It went right. You know? Aren't their legacies inseparably linked? Oh, yeah, of course they are. Of course they are. Yeah, Malcolm. So the rumor is, this is unfounded. This is not official fact. But if you know, you know. The feds killed MLK. We're not sure who killed Malcolm X. So Malcolm X, because the conspiracy theories will tell you that Malcolm X died because he was moving away from the NOI and was maybe about to expose them a little bit. And maybe there was a collusion between the FBI and certain folks that ended up in Malcolm X getting shot. And then, like, if I'm not mistaken, like Malcolm X's shooting is actually like, I think they actually, like, he was alive and they actually shot him at the hospital. So yeah. Do you know the 3 do's and don'ts of being black in white spaces? Don't be alone with white girls. Don't do nature. Don't sleep around. Ooh, that sounds pretty solid. That sounds pretty solid. I've done all of those 3 things. I followed those 3 things pretty much my whole life, but thankfully, I haven't had to be in those spaces in the all white space too much. But that is definitely something I would I can rock with that. Do I think J. Edgar Hoover was passing? There's a certain point where passing just becomes white to me. Does that make sense? Like, at a certain point, passing just becomes white. So like the Dolphins head coach. Let me show y'all him real quick, and then we're gonna wrap it up. This is the Miami Dolphins head coach. That's a black man, or at least his father's black. And he kept it real. He was like, look, I don't really identify as black because nobody thinks I'm black. And at that point, you know, if that's how you feel and that's how the world treats you, then I'm not going to fight about, I'm not going to, it looks like Logic. You know, has Logic ever really, like, I know Logic has claimed that he has black ancestry, but has Logic ever identified as black? You know what I'm saying? I don't know that full lore. And I'm saying, and if you pass that much, but you identify as black and you have racialized experiences, I'm not gonna fight with you about that. But if you're J. Edgar Hoover, fuck, I'm not trying to claim you. You know what I'm saying? If you're J. Edgar Hoover, I'm not trying to claim you. I don't care if J. Edgar Hoover was passing. The motherfucker was awful. He's on the Mount Rushmore of racists for a reason. Do I think a recreation of the Rainbow Coalition can happen today? Absolutely. Absolutely. I do. Like, I think if you look at, and you know, I think if you look at portions of the online left, you see some of that. You see black and white leftists collaborating. You see leftists internationally collaborating. It's very possible. It's just, I mean, so one thing I'm going to talk about in a video about the manosphere coming up is that the left's problem in America is white supremacy, not in how white supremacy affects people of color, but in how white supremacy is so appealing and hard to disentangle from white people. And so there are a lot of white leftists that can only go as far to the left as they can be white and remain centered. Does that make sense? Like, they can go as far to the left as centering whiteness, holding on to white racial frames, And lowering issues around race and class reduction activities. That is the problem of the left in America, that we cannot get white people on board because they will only go so far. A lot of them. And then the ones that will go far enough are few and far between. And the rest of the country, like, please understand, the vast majority of white people are still conservative in this country. Just if you just go off voting records. Like, we are very much a minority. And I think white supremacy is the reason why. I don't know what Letterboxd is. A lot of white leftists have no idea that they're upholding white supremacy, or insist they're not. But the fact that they get so defensive when it's pointed out is telling. That's it. That's it. I wish I knew a better solution to this, but all I can do is patience. Like, patiently hope that motherfuckers get the picture. But like, they don't. A lot of them don't. You know, they get there eventually, some of them, but a lot of them just don't. Excuse me. Somebody said nobody likes the identity challenge, which is true, right? So, like, I empathize with, and I have a Manosphere video coming out where I tackle this in more detail. I haven't written it yet, but I imagine this is what will come out of it. I empathize, and I talk about this in the Bo Burnham video. I empathize with being racialized as white and having to come to terms with what that means for everybody else that's not white, and how that can be a difficult, hard, and jarring process. I get it, which is why I don't expect people to respond effectively the first couple of times they hear it. But some folks, we on time number 10, 15, 20, 30, 40, 50, blah, 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 of hearing the same explanation of leftist white supremacy, and they still don't get it. So it's like, look, I'll holler at y'all when y'all get it. When y'all get it, I'll talk to you about it. You know? Ooh, I like this one. We might end it on that one. The system has got poor white folks so vested in the well-being of their rich oppressors, they learn what threat movements like Hampton's, Dr. King's could be. Hold on, I want to get to that one. Do you think the true Scotsman trope is seen in less spaces? A little bit. And Body Medics is a massage clinic. Okay. If it's in Buckhead, so we talking about Buckhead massage clinics, there's two types. Some of them have dark windows. I used to work in anti-sex trafficking. So we'll see. I may look into it. No, I don't think Angela Davis would make a competitive populist candidate. First off, there's people on the left that are already throwing shade at Angela Davis, and it makes a little sense, but it's like, chill. But I just don't know. I mean, I don't know. I don't know what to do with politics. Like, I'm not anti-voting, right? But I am anti-electoralism, whatever the fucking word is. Like, I think the people that make the decisions, it's important to have as good a situation there as possible. I mean, we got a ridiculous Supreme Court situation now because of that. But in terms of like a real candidate to get hopeful about and get behind, I just don't think there's no reason to get super excited about any mainstream political candidate. Vote for the best person out the people you got options for. and then just stop. From now on, like I said, since 2016, I have voted with the same spirit that I like wash my hands with. You know, I don't have to, like, you don't have to wash your hands, but you should, because you might get germs. It doesn't make you special washing your hands. If you don't wash your hands, I might think you're a little nasty. Woo. Dang, somebody said something I want to talk about. But we'll end here. How do white leftists uphold white supremacy? In short, by ensuring that whiteness is centered in leftist politics. That's the as good an explanation as I can give. White leftists, not all of them, but too many of them, ensure that whiteness is centered in leftist politics. They don't have any knowledge of leftist politics and movements outside of Western-centered movements or out of Westernized and European theorists. And when you start trying to talk about intersections of race and class and things like that, they say shit like, they say they do class reductionism. And when you try to be critical of that, they get a little upset and they do other fuck shit. That's the best way to put it. People think white supremacy, like the easiest way is that white leftists think white supremacy is about fighting Nazis. I have never feared the Nazis. I'm going on 40 years old. I've never met a Nazi. I live in the South. Like, I've been called the N-word a few times in my entire life. That shit does not mean anything to me. But some white leftists spend so much fucking energy fighting and debating Nazis. And I get why. I get why there's value there. But that is there's a role that plays. But we should be able to discuss the role that tends to underplay. That's pretty much it. I'm too tired to go any further without knowing that I'm not gonna present the best discussion on that topic. But I am making a video that wants to engage in that. JC just hit me with 20, so I'll get one last thing. Most rather live in their privilege and face uncertainty and inconvenience of potentially losing the reality of what the system does. You know what, JC? I don't know if I agree with you. I don't think it's that conscious. Some people disagree with me. My homeboy says white supremacy is intentional. I completely agree with that. But it's like, I think so many of these white leftists see what being a leftist is very much an identity politic. It's funny because you hear it poll come up in certain white leftist circles, but like literally being a white leftist is an identity politic. And it becomes more about that than the actual politic. And so it's not even just about decentering whiteness consciously, it's just getting lost in that experience of being in a community, you know. All right, I gotta go because I'm not working with my sharpest tools this late, and we're getting into sensitive topics that I'm sure will pop up on Reddit or some shit. So I'm gonna say peace to y'all. I appreciate everybody for being here. Appreciate all of the super chats. Nicki Minaj is next up on the 25th, maybe is the goal. And I said, bro, it's 3 p.m. It's 10:30 here. That is past my bedtime. That's pretty much it, y'all. Peace and blessings.